So the first thing is to set up the project. So we're creating a new application here. It will be a single view application. So we'll select that. We'll say calculator app here, and we're not using core data and test for now. So I'll create it here in my workspace. So the first thing we'll do is go to app delegate, and in here this is where we are going to customize it so that it does not use the main.storyboard and use uh, our defined view or view controller as the initial point of the app. In the default storyboard, the initial view controller, this view controller is configured as the initial view controller, as the entry point of the app. So we are configuring that in code here. So what we'll say is window is equals to UI window frame UI screen dot main dot bounds. So we're setting the window, and what we're setting it to is we are creating a new window, and the frame of the window is the frame of the screen. This we're setting this window variable over here, and what else we need to do is we need to say window dot root view controller is equals to some view controller, and in our case is view controller, so we'll say that. And the last thing we need to do is we need to set this function. We need to call this method here, make key and visible, shows the window and makes it the key window, show the current window and posting in front of all other windows at the same level or lower. If you only want to show the window change its is hidden property to false. Anyway, I do not personally do not know the details, but you have to call this method to make it work. So the next thing we're gonna do is remove this code here and this here and create a view. So in the view, what we'll do is we create a new file here, and we'll call it home view. Since we'll be dealing with the user interface, so we have to import the UIKit first, and the next thing we'll say class home view, and this is a subclass of UI view, and here we'll put our code. So this is the view file and this is the controller file. So right now this is named as view controller. We'll rename it to home view controller, and this file here as well, and in here we'll say home view controller. So in here we can say that we can define a label. Let's say let label is a subclass of UI label, and let label is equals to UI label. We initialize it here. We are gonna set some properties on it here, like text. We'll say hello world, and we are going to return this label and execute this block. So now we have a label, uh, and the text of the label is hello world. So now we need to add it to our view of home view controller. So what we can do is we can say we have to set this property here, label translates auto resizing masks into constraints is equals to false, so that whenever we constrain this view programmatically in our code, it lays out properly. Otherwise, it does not lay out properly. If you do it in storyboards, you do not need to set this property, because by default this is set to true, and which lets it to function for storyboards. But for making it work programmatically, you have to set this property to false. So do not forget about this. I often forget about this, but later on I usually check if I have done this mistake, and that is mostly the case. Either it's this case or the other one that I'll mention in a while. So I'll show you a wrong way of doing this, and then I'll show you the correct way of doing this, so that you know both and you can learn from it better. So a simple way of doing this is the wrong way. So it's not wrong, it will function all like perfectly fine performance wise as well. But if you follow an MVC design pattern, it's not up to the standard. Anyway, we will say over here that we define a constant home view, and we're gonna set it to home view, and in here we'll say view dot add subview home view, and then we'll say home view dot left anchor dot constraint. So what we have to do over here is we have to constrain any view, we have to give it constrain its position. So the first thing is position, and by position I mean like you have to specify its x and y coordinates, or like positions in both axes. And the second thing is the size. So you have to specify its width and height. But in practice, you don't actually all the time specify its width or height or its center position or something like that. But you can also specify its right anchor and left anchor. In that way, you're specifying two positions, and based on those two positions, you're specifying its width. I'll code now so that you understand how we're going about this. So we're constraining it left anchor to the left, to the left of the view. And the second thing that I said I will tell you later is this one, which I often forget, is you have to activate this constraint to make it work. Otherwise, it will not work. So home view top anchor dot constraint view dot top anchor is active is equals to true. So we're activating is the top. So now we have specified its position. We have specified its x and y, the left anchor and the top. So in a way, the top left of the view. So now we have to specify its width. Either we can say home view, we can anchor its home, we can constrain its home view to the width of the home view to the width of the view, or we can say home view dot right anchor dot constraint. So we're constraining the right anchor of the home view to the right of the view, and then activating it. And in a way, we are setting its width. So now we're constraining its bottom angle to the bottom of the view. So if now we run this, it might not work. It will not work. We have to make a couple of fixes before this works. So my simulator takes quite some time in loading, so I'll get back.